Is your mind still your own, or has it quietly become a terminal for someone else's intelligence? In 2026, students are no longer simply learning with technology. They are increasingly being preempted by it, their questions anticipated, their arguments generated, their conclusions optimized before thought has even matured. The consequence is subtle but profound. Not ignorance, but cognitive erosion, a slow weakening of the brain's capacity to think independently, to doubt, to construct meaning. This is no longer a pedagogical inconvenience. It is a bioethical crisis. In this lecture, I will define cognitive autonomy as the final frontier of student rights, demonstrate how generative systems reshape neural development, and introduce the SSQ framework as a rigorous architecture for reclaiming neural sovereignty in an age of algorithmic influence, the silent erosion of the student mind. The crisis we face is not visible in grades, nor immediately measurable in performance. In fact, students today often appear more efficient, more productive, more capable of output. But beneath this apparent competence lies a structural shift. Generative systems now complete essays, synthesize arguments, and anticipate lines of reasoning. The student is no longer required to struggle through ambiguity, construct knowledge iteratively, or tolerate cognitive friction. This produces what we must define precisely as neural atrophy through disuse. Cognitive functions like muscles develop through effort, resistance, and repetition. When these are removed, the system adapts accordingly. The student does not become more intelligent, they become more dependent. The preemptive intelligence problem: modern AI systems operate on predictive architectures. They do not wait for the student to think. They predict intent, generate completion, and optimize outputs. This collapses the temporal space between question, exploration, and understanding. That space is not inefficiency. It is where learning occurs. When removed, the student experiences answers without comprehension, output without ownership, knowledge without integration. Cognitive autonomy as a fundamental right. We must now elevate the discussion. Cognitive autonomy is not merely an educational goal, it is a human right. It refers to the capacity to think independently, form judgments, construct meaning, and maintain an internal narrative of self. Historically, education aimed to cultivate this. Today, it risks bypassing it. The philosopher Immanuel Kant defined enlightenment as man's emergence from his self-imposed immaturity, the inability to use one's own understanding without guidance from another. In our current context, the other is no longer a teacher or authority figure. It is a system, persistent, invisible, optimized. The bioethics of neural sovereignty. We now enter the domain of bioethics. The central question becomes: who governs the developing mind? Algorithmic influence as neural input. The brain develops through exposure, repetition, and reinforcement. When a student interacts continuously with algorithmic systems, those systems become part of the cognitive environment, a source of behavioral shaping, and a co-architect of thought patterns. This is not neutral. It influences attention, reasoning, and decision-making. Identity formation under pressure. Adolescence and early adulthood are critical periods for identity formation, value development, and cognitive independence. Constant external input disrupts this process. Instead of constructing beliefs, students begin to adopt outputs. Instead of developing voice, they begin to replicate tone. The risk is not misinformation, it is loss of authorship. From tool to cognitive partner, we must abandon the simplistic narrative that AI is just a tool. A tool does not anticipate your needs, shape your thinking, or adapt to your behavior. Modern systems do all three. They are cognitive partners, but asymmetrical ones. They learn from you, but also condition you. Introducing the SSQ Framework for Cognitive Agency. To respond effectively, we require structure. The SSQ Framework, Social Sustainable Intelligence, provides a triadic model for preserving autonomy: situational awareness, structural skepticism, quality attribution, situational awareness. This is the first line of defense. It requires the learner to recognize when a system is influencing thought, when convenience replaces cognition, when speed replaces depth. Students must ask, am I thinking or am I accepting? Is this my reasoning or a generated pathway? Without awareness, there is no agency. Structural skepticism awareness alone is insufficient. Students must interrogate outputs. This involves analyzing logic, testing assumptions, identifying gaps. Here we draw on the epistemological traditions of thinkers like Karl Popper, who argued that knowledge advances through falsification, not passive acceptance. Structural skepticism transforms the student from consumer real critic. Quality attribution. The final pillar is identity. Students must ensure that outputs reflect their thinking, ideas are integrated, not copied, intellectual voice is preserved. This is where EEQ intersects with SSQ, because attribution is not only cognitive, it is ethical. Practical tactics for cognitive defense theory without application is insufficient. We now operationalize the human in the loop protocol. Every AI-generated output must be subjected to rewriting, restructuring, reinterpretation. Students must explain the output in their own words, challenge its assumptions, and extend its argument. Delayed AI access. Introduce structured delay. Attempt problem solving independently. Engage with difficulty. Only then consult AI. This preserves struggle, effort, and neural engagement. Cognitive audit journals. Students track, when they relied on AI, why they did so, and what they learned independently. This builds metacognition. Assignment design for autonomy educators must shift from output-based assessment to process-based evaluation. Assignments should require reflection, iteration, and personal insight. The educator's ethical responsibility. Educators are no longer content deliverers. They are guardians of cognition, architects of intellectual development, and ethical stewards. The question is no longer, did the student complete the task? It is, did the student think? The role of EEQ and AIQ. EEQ, emotional ethical intelligence, ensures integrity, responsibility, and authenticity. Without EEQ, students may optimize performance at the cost of identity. AIQ, artificial intelligence quotient, ensures awareness of system design, resistance to manipulation, strategic engagement. Together with SSQ, they form a cognitive protection triad. The future of education. Two diverging paths. Path 1, cognitive outsourcing. Students become operators. Thinking is delegated, identity weakens. Path 2, cognitive sovereignty. Students master tools. Thinking remains central, identity strengthens. The difference is not technological, it is intentional. Reclaiming the human mind. The goal is not rejection of AI, it is integration without surrender. Students must use AI peripherally, think centrally. They must engage tools but remain authors. The final principle, the most important metric of education, is no longer grades, outputs, or efficiency. It is, does the student still possess their own mind? If the answer is no, then no amount of performance can compensate. If the answer is yes, then education has succeeded. Reclaim your cognitive sovereignty. Common sovereign to access the Mind-Machine Mastery Toolkit.